Life is full of choices, so let's explore the best ways to thrive. This is the Connecting You podcast, hosted by me, Myra Richards, and my marketing director, Emily Robinson. Tune in to discover a healed, healthy, and purposeful life.
Welcome back to the Connecting You podcast. This is episode 4 of Single and Dating. Okay, you've really thought about your core beliefs, you've gone to therapy, you're ready to date. So, what can we expect now when we actually start to go on dates?
I wanted to talk about this because I want you to have good expectations. One of the things that you will definitely most likely feel if you really like this person, if you're excited about this person, or maybe even if you're not, is that you will be really nervous. I still remember going on a date after 3 years of not dating. And I was literally on the floor I lived in the basement at the time, and I was laying down and the tears were coming down because that's how my anxiety comes, right? The tears were coming down and I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I want a boyfriend, but I don't want to do this.
I want the end result, but I don't want to go through the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was really, really nervous. And I actually didn't super like this person. I thought I would give it a shot. Anxiety and excitement can feel a little bit of the same. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't have a peace about it. I'm just not going to do it. And it's like, no, you cannot have to try it because you need to know part of you will feel excited. So you'll feel like that visibly in your body of like sweatiness and your heart is pounding. And the same feels when you're anxious and when you're worried. Your palm is sweaty, your heart's pounding, all of these things. So I would expect you to be nervous. If you are not nervous, maybe you are an avoidant person who doesn't feel much, or maybe you really know this person for a really long time and then you feel very comfortable anyway. So that can also happen. But I would expect you to be nervous.
Yeah, there's 2 different kinds of nervous. I've been on several dates, but I was still a little nervous each time, particularly if it's a new person. It wasn't that I thought anything bad was going to happen. Like, I didn't think I was going to embarrass myself, or I wasn't worried about if he didn't like me. It's just the nervousness of the whole situation. On dates is the prospect your whole life could change.
Yeah.
It's a new person, you don't know what to expect. Then there's the other kind of nervous, which I think you should feel, which is what you were saying, is when you really, really like them and you really want it to go well. I haven't had that recently. So I think that's a sign to look out for. If you're not that nervous initially, it can mean something is wrong in terms of you don't really care if it goes well. I wasn't nervous about it because I wasn't passionate about this person or what I was doing.
Yeah, you didn't want to impress him because you didn't care.
Yeah. So even if it's easy, that doesn't mean that it's a good date.
Yes, that is true. Even if it's easy, it doesn't mean it's a good date. I do believe that.
Sometimes I've been sad because I've legitimately wanted to stay friends with this person. I'm like, oh, like that would be a good friend to have. I don't want to date them, but I haven't been able to turn it into like a friendship because if you meet guys like dating out, they're gonna feel rejected if you say that you just want to be friends.
Which leads us to the next one. I think you can expect during a dating season, if you're going on dates, let's say you're using Hinge, eHarmony, whatever you're using, expect rejection, to know how to deal with rejection. That means that you're going to feel rejected, you're going to feel sad about it, you're going to feel discouraged. That is part of it. You will feel that way until you find your person.
I've heard people say that every no gets you closer to your yes. So it's like every no is just like another step along the path. Why would you want to be super compatible with every single person you come across?
Right.
That just means that you're probably putting on some sort of disguise, like molding yourself, as we talked about a few episodes ago.
Yeah. You will also probably feel discouraged, hopeless. But the hopelessness simply says to a person, I really want something. I really want something, and it hasn't happened yet. And now I'm starting to feel like it's never going to happen. And so if you've been waiting for a long time, dating for a long time, but sometimes you've dated a couple of guys and then you date again and the date doesn't go as well and you start feeling hopeless. That's normal, I would say. Get with a friend and somebody who can tell you, hey, like this just wasn't for you. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be somebody for you.
A while ago, you brought up one really sad example. Someone you knew really wanted a baby and they kept trying to get pregnant and they couldn't. And then you got pregnant and like you had to really show compassion for that. think dating can have a similar experience where people feel so hopeless and like out of control if
Yeah.
they can't find somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's even with dating. I can think of a friend who got in any harmony, and within a few weeks, it was that snow apocalypse that happened. It was within a few weeks that she found her husband now. But a similar friend is still single. That is going to be painful for the people that are like, well, I tried the same thing and it didn't work for me because nobody's life goes like the other person. Gavin and I met at my Richmond graduation. I know that's rare. I met somebody who met her husband at a bus station.
Really?
Everybody's
anywhere.
story's different and it can be anywhere. If you're gone home with like, well, this number of people have met their husbands through this thing, so it should happen for me. You're making somebody else's story your reality. That's going to bring a lot of disappointment.
One advice that I hate is it'll happen when you least expect it or when you're not looking. I'm like, I don't think I've ever really been looking. And it's not happened.
When I was single, I remember people used to say that to me, and I would say the opposite, actually,
Really?
which is funny because it's their personalities. I actually looked at this person and I said, I'm never not going to expect it. I am literally walking through every coffee shop being like, is anybody looking at me right now that wants to go on a
Aw.
date with me? And I never
Yeah.
not expected it. Every time I went anywhere, you can be like, I'm never expecting it. He comes, I'm not expecting that. Kind of advice is not helpful. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. But people will say the second that I stopped looking, the next month that I wasn't expecting, I was like, I expect
You're like,
nothing.
"I'm never-"
I'm like living my life.
And I was always looking.
But it didn't work for you all the first years you were looking.
Yeah, it took a while.
It's hard for me to talk about the sense of hopelessness with dating because I don't understand it. I'm too young. I don't feel hopeless at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Well, you are
I
young.
see other people date or get married who are my age, and that's fine. But I don't personally look at it as, oh, they're married and I'm not.
But you are young, especially in Christian circles. People really tend to get married right after college.
You didn't.
22. I didn't. I didn't get married until I was like 20 something, 27, 28, which is still pretty young. And by the time you're 30, you are almost a decade over what you were supposed to be married or what your parents and that's a heaviness to the heart. Again, I think I met Gavin when I was 27. I didn't get married until I was like 29.
I feel like 30 is the like, looming cultural stereotype, like women's life. Like after 30, everything's going to change.
Well, after 30, people start expecting you to have babies.
Yeah.
And then they start telling, well, at 36, you're basically
doomed.
geriatric pregnancy if you get
Yeah.
pregnant. After 36, you really should. So there's this huge
Time
pressure that the older you get, the more hopeless. And I remember one of my sisters saying, like, well, Myra, what you're looking for at the sliver of a piece of pie, like, you're never going to find that.
What do you
know?
mean?
Like, if you're looking for somebody to love the Lord and be kind and all this stuff, like you're making, here's a pizza, talking about all the guys in this world, and you're looking for this tiny little slice, and you need to broaden your thing.
Really? So
That's-
people were encouraging you to change what you wanted because
Yes.
it wasn't happening on the timeline that they expected.
Not that they expected, but just because they knew that I wanted it and I wasn't getting it. And they were like, why don't you brought it? And I'm like, this isn't like looking for a house, where I can be like,
Compromise.
I don't want 4 bedrooms. I'll just compromise with 3. This is about the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't just say, I'm not going to value somebody who goes to church and I don't care if he's close to his parents or not, or, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to do that. So it didn't take me that long. And I know that, especially for
Yeah.
people who've been waiting past 30. I get that. But I've also known a good number of women who have waited for that. And so there is a hopelessness that sinks in that you're having to tell your heart what you just said, but in a different words of, hey, one more day has passed and that's one more day closer to finding the person that I want to be with.
There's definitely a sense of once that hopelessness sets in, then people start to compromise, as you said, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, maybe I don't need this or I don't need that. And something that changed my mind or have molded my perspective about that situation. Like, okay, we're acting like it's this huge expectation for somebody to be kind and patient and close with his parents, want to live in this area, et cetera, et cetera. look at all of the things that you are. Like, look at all of, are you intelligent? Are you funny? Are you patient with people? Like, all of these things that you are very effortlessly, that gives me hope because I know that this is out there in the world because I am it.
Yeah.
Or like the most simple pared down version of that I've seen people. So I know that love like exists out in the world because I am it. There's patience out there.
Yeah. There is that person for you. How do you continue dating? You take it one date at a time. It is a long interview process. I don't know if you've been to a job interview. It should be just as intensive as that. Every time you open up a little bit more and a little bit more. I do believe that the older you get, the more direct you have to get. When you're in your 20s, sure, date for a while. I think what I'm trying to say, when you're in your 20s, is just very different. Like the stakes are lower.
Like they should know what they want when they're older.
Yeah, the older they should know, you should know what you want, and you should know more direct with your questioning about like, hey, do you believe in this? Do you agree with that? What do you think about this topic? Do you want to adopt? Do you want is my dream is to adopt? Would you ever? Those are the things in your heart that I would go ahead and give those things out. As opposed to when if you're in your 20s, those are not really things that you're gonna, because you're still trying to figure that out. But the older you get, I would hope that you're starting to figure those things out. And so those things that matter to you, go ahead and say them out loud.
Like knowing your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Bear on Hulu?
No, I've heard people talk about it, but no.
Basically the premise, like there's this very strict chef. He writes down his non-negotiables because he wants his restaurant to be the pinnacle of excellence and he wants it to be this, and this. And so he writes down things that are non-negotiable. He makes a copy of the list and he's handing it out to everyone else that works there. They were like, this is ridiculous. We're never going to get these things. This is too much. You're expecting way too much. But in his restaurant, the only person who has to expect it is him. And so I won't talk about like workplace. It's not a perfect metaphor. But for dating, which is a two-person thing, the only person who has to expect your non-negotiables, it's you.
Yes.
Whether or not other people think it's possible, which you showed with like sticking to what you wanted.
We do this thing with so many things, even non-negotiables for starting a restaurant, for non-negotiables for anything, for buying something. And we don't do that for ourselves when it comes to relationships. Somebody said recently, when my daughter gets a little bit older, I'm going to ask my mom to stop talking so much about her weight, about eating and food and stuff like that. And I looked at her and I was like, why not now?
Yeah.
Why not for you?
It's totally bothering you too.
It's bothering you, it's hurting you. If it matters to you, you need to speak up and say that. The same with dating. Speak up. Let's say that you really want to adopt and he's like, I don't want to adopt. And you simply say, is that a non-negotiable for you? Because if it is, then you walk away and you walk away honoring each other, just simply being like, hey, go in peace, but this is not for me.
This is Real Sex in the City episode. Charlotte's husband, they can't have kids and he won't adopt. And she had to have a kid. So she left him and her divorce lawyer became her husband and they adopted a kid.
Aww.
It was cute. But yeah, she didn't stop looking just because she was 35.
Right.
She was like, I want to adopt. I'm going to do it. I think having those non-negotiables can help you with the hopelessness, being discouraged, because if you have things that you can remind yourself of, it can help push you through those like periods. Well, maybe I should just compromise because I'm losing hope that I'm going to find somebody.
Okay. So figure out your non-negotiables. Know that dating, especially starting a date, is really scary and you're going to be nervous, knowing that part of the dating season brings some hopelessness and some rejection and some discouragement. And that is part of it. And it also brings good, funny stories. There are a lot of upsides. Like you get to learn more about yourself. You get to learn with each person that you go on a date more of what you want that you didn't know before.
Yeah.
It's a learning season. If anything, then maybe you can enjoy that part of it of like, hey, maybe I'm not going to find my husband in this next season, but I am going to learn more about me. And that's enough.
The Bible verse for this season is Psalm 130, 5-6. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord, more than watchmen wait for the morning. More than watchmen wait for the morning. Jesus, we thank you that you are a God of hope. You're a God of joy. And I pray that in this season of people who are dating and single and hoping, Lord, in this season of waiting, that you will come so near to every single one of your children, that you would renew hope that you will renew their minds into putting their hope in your word and in you, Lord. God, I pray for people to find their person, for people to find joy in being single, or whatever it is that you have for their lives. We know that you are a good dad who cares for your children, and you will give them more than enough, more than what they ask for, Lord, because that is the heart of a father. So, Lord, thank you for loving us, for taking care of us, and we will wait. We will wait for you. In Jesus' name, I pray. As we wrap up today's episode, we are grateful you join us to explore what it means to remain connected to God, to yourself, and to others. To stay updated on future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button and connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Remain Connected. Counseling appointments can be made at RemainConnectedLLC.com. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, may you find peace in your connections and blessings in every step of your journey. Have